Hello. It has been the second summer in a row of convalescence. I had my second knee surgery done. Should be able to walk, hopefully starting next week. I did read quite a bit, so I thought today maybe we'd talk a bit about the books I read in July as Kona makes a nest in the carpet. And as you may be able to see behind me, kind of right here, I've started packing for school. This is my second of 3 years of college, so that's pretty crazy. All right, let me grab my phone and we will go through the books I read in the month of July 2023. Feels good to go back to basics. Oh, here's my epic scar, by the way. You probably can't see, and that might be for the better because of the glare, but matches this one. All right, in the month of July, I believe I read 7 books. Healthy amount. We started off with Skinship by Yoon Choi. Apart from being gorgeously written, the characters in this book I connected to so heavily. We have so little time with each of them because it is an anthology of short stories, but it's so easy to fall in love with them. There were 2 stories that were particular standouts for me. One followed a piano teacher who was experiencing probably a degree of asexuality and Kona, where are you? He's experiencing asexuality and is likely on the spectrum. And it's about how he has gone through life and loves and losses he's experienced because of his either inability to connect with people within the norms and conventions of neurotypical society, and about the ways in which he connects uniquely with other people through music, which is one of my favorite topics ever. The second story that stood out was one about 2 sisters who are grappling with their mother's death in very, very different ways, and with kind of the expected path of life, the American dream versus an unconventional one. One of the sisters went to Columbia, is now a stay-at-home mom, and she's struggling to connect with her teenage daughter. The other sister is kind of a vagabond. She is traveling the world and living very poorly in terms of finances, but quite richly in terms of cultural experiences. Despite all of this, she's really lonely. Excellent book. Roxanne Gay gave it 5 stars. What else do you need to know? Next, I read Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen. Quirky, and I read this in one day. It was really short, really snappy, really good. It is about a fictional dating show in which they go to like this island off the coast of Seattle to film the semifinals. But there is a force, a presence on this island that doesn't really want them there. And they start being picked off one by this sort of female Bigfoot creature. The island is also populated by a bunch of elderly women, the majority of them lesbians, who protect this creature, make sure the island stays safe, and so does their female Bigfoot, aka Patricia. It was just a really creative story, and I really enjoyed it. I found it funny. I liked a lot of the characters. I was actually sad when some of the ones you're not supposed to like get eaten or killed off, because they were so funny. They just added a good commentary on reality TV and also interpersonal relationships. After that, Heartstopper Volume 1, Heartstopper Season 2. The show came out yesterday. I actually haven't watched any of it yet, so I'm really excited for that. It's just a happy story. I don't really read graphic novels, and I thought that would be a decent place to start. I did pick up a graphic novel adaptation of Kindred by Octavia Butler that I'm hoping to read later this year. I thought this would be a happy ease-in to the medium because I'm familiar with the story, I love the story, and I really enjoy the illustration style. Alice Oseman is pretty cool, and it's nice to see a form of representation that is just almost pure happy, like a little bit too good to be true. Sometimes you need that. I finished The Witches, Salem 1692 by Stacy, Schiff this month. This is an audiobook. I want to say it was about 18 hours long, and as you may guess, it covers the Salem witch trials, which began in the fateful year of 1692. I read this book for a couple of reasons. Witchcraft is fascinating to me, as are kind of mass moments of societal hysteria, for lack of a better word. I like spooky. I like Halloween. In summer, I like to pretend it's fall. I love history. And I'm also going to Salem later this year. I've been doing, when I say doing, I mean I've done 1 little solo trips throughout college. So you may have seen my San Francisco solo trip vlog. That was one of the best experiences of my life, and I saved up enough to go to Salem around Halloween time. So I'm trying to get familiar with the history of the place I'm going to before I dive into it as a tourist in one of its busiest seasons. I liked this book. It was definitely comprehensive, maybe to the point of being overbearing. At no point, though, did I find it boring. It was always engaging. I didn't forget who the people in the book were. I felt like the reminders of family names and individuals were really consistent and helped me follow along with both the general arc of what happened in 1692 and with individual lives. But in general, I thought it was a very well done piece and a good study into a locale I will be visiting very soon. I'm quite stoked about it. In fact, I'm currently reading this book. It's called A Season with the Witch by J.W. Ocker. And, you know, I'd never heard of it before, but I was looking for specific travel occulty books because of what we talked about previously. This guy moved his whole family to Salem for the month of October to chronicle its festivities and traditions. So, it's gonna be me. I read Little by Edward Carey. I quite enjoyed this one. I have been going to the library a lot lately, and I love when libraries just spotlight certain books I've never heard of. It's fun to go in without an agenda or something I've heard about on Goodreads and just explore. This was something to come out of said exploration, and it is a fictionalized biography of the life of Madame Tussaud of wax museum fame and glory. I didn't know Madame Tussaud was a real person. She's from Switzerland, and there she was orphaned and met and became employed by a doctor who created kind of wax figurines of body parts that were infected, just general bodily afflictions, for the sake of study at the nearby hospital. But the doctor and our new Madame Tussaud, who is called Little her whole life, she's quite small and apparently not very conventionally attractive, move to Paris after meeting someone who came into the shop to look at their work. And they start taking wax molds of heads, later on bodies, of both the rich and famous and wise and important contributors to society, and also lowly criminals and villains and murderers. And I really loved it. It was quite personable, the writing was lovely, there are little illustrations that Madame Tussaud allegedly drew in her youth, and it just felt like such a unique character study. I've never read anything about her before, and it was a lot of fun. Also, the cover's pink. After that, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I read this on the Kindle, and this was a recommendation by my friend Darren. I have watched the majority of the television adaptation, but had not read the original book. The storylines differ quite drastically between the two, but I think for the better. The TV show took what the book started with, the foundation of characters and storylines that really speak about the beauty of art and humanity after a global pandemic, and intertwine them so you become even more invested in these characters and their coincidental or perhaps even fateful meetings. Last but not least, I read Cursed Bunny. I prefer to pronounce it Cursed Bunny just because I think it's more fun, by Bora Chung. This is a collection of originally written in Korean short stories, and they are all horror thriller focused, but there was like a quite present fairy tale vibe to them as well. Maybe folklorish, mythic. There were definitely morals that came out of all of these stories individually as well as cohesively. Commentary on patriarchy, misogyny, capitalism, of course. And they were quite horrifying. I described the first story to my dad, which is about a woman whose excrement grows into its own person in the toilet, and its head speaks to her out of the toilet. And he was horrified. Personally, I found it extremely creative and a lot of fun to read. Bora Chung's definitely someone I'd love to sit down and talk with. Not only is she an excellent writer and creative, she translates Korean literature, I believe, into Russian and Slavic languages, which is just so cool. Those are all the books that I read in the month of July 2023. Apart from A Season with the Witch, I am currently reading Washington Black, which is a novel about an enslaved boy who becomes the assistant of this like hot air balloon technician. I'm not very far into it. It's a very poignant story, and the pacing is quite well done if you're into kind of slow burn plots, which I am. Historical fiction is one of my favorite genres, and it's one that I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of in the present moment, not only in literature, but also in film and TV. You can kind of see that with the rise of biopics. Oppenheimer just came out. I have seen it. I would recommend it. I would also go into it knowing that it has an agenda, that no media is neutral, and that historical fiction can easily be warped to create a kind of hero or mythic tale. It's important to remember with these stories the people that have suffered behind them as well. For example, in Oppenheimer, this isn't a spoiler, we do not see the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which I think would be necessary to even try to balance the content of the story. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you're well. I hope to make a college move-in vlog for you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.